Bet you he hasn't.
Yeah, I bet good money that he hasn't.
Little slapper. Everything's been on the crypto world. It's been very quiet, I guess.
Yeah, man.
To be honest, it's been quiet, which is nice.
I've been doing
nice quietness.
I've been doing tons of stuff, man.
Have you?
Yeah.
What have you been busy with?
I've been buying NFTs. I've been using bridges. I've been getting everything off exchanges. Yeah, man. I've been.
I thought you were already all off exchanges.
I was for the most part, but there was little bits and pieces. And I still have actually some BNB on Binance, which I mean,
gotcha,
like,
okay.
if that
if that goes well,
it's worthless
it's all
anyway.
gone.
So,
Speak of the devil, Ethereum's down to 1,888.
everything off
Down?
exchanges. Yeah,
Maybe.
man. So we are live, which is good. I was for the most part. Copy that. I know it's 7, but we're gonna have to wait a minute, people, because I just want to do the little post that I normally do.
I also managed, even though my luck is always completely terrible, folks, I have won the spot to mint Tim Ferriss's NFT.
Oh, yeah.
Got myself the spot. There's only 5,500. No, I'm lying to you.
No, that's about right.
There's 5,555 NFTs. 4,800 of them are available to purchase. The rest are going to be held for whatever. So there's actually not many of them. But they've allocated 5,200 people to mint as like the winners.
Okay.
Right? Which means...
So how does that work?
That, well, based on statistically, not everyone who gets the winnings goes and does the minting process.
Yeah, correct.
And so they're like, okay, roughly a 10% deviation will be fine. So it should be okay. However, the minting begins... the minting is only open for 1 hour for the people who won. Which is me.
What hour? What time of day is it?
4 a.m.
Ugh.
4 a.m. So I will be getting up at a little bit earlier actually than I would have wanted to, so I can go and mint the NFT. Cock Punch NFT. But I'm looking forward to it. Unfortunately, I can only get one, because I genuinely would have bought 10 if it was such allowed, but alas, it's not.
Now, why would you want 10? Because he's saying you got to do it for the enjoyment out of it. So would 10 give you more enjoyment than 1?
I'll take it back. Not 10, 8. 8 exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Why 8 exactly?
Because I would like to get one of each categories, one of each of the clans. I can't remember what you call it. Clans, groupings, dynasties. I don't know. I'd like to have like 8 to have a chance of one in each of those areas.
Okay.
And then when it all gets revealed, perhaps if I get 1 or 2 in the same space, then I could trade for someone else in another area. That way, I've got a foot in each team, I guess, which would be kind of fun.
Okay.
I've got each to blow.
Now, you're going to participate? Are you going to create your own lore? That sort of things? Because that's generally what it sounded like he's wanting.
What, create your own lore?
Yeah, for your... Well, so you'll have these characters, and it sounds like it's a participatory... You create a backstory to your own thing. That's the impression I was getting.
You create a backstory to each thing?
Yeah. So your character, would you write a story for each one of your characters?
No, not so much.
Okay.
I did get that vibe from the convo he had with Kevin Rose about it.
Okay, I haven't listened to that one.
Okay. The one with Kevin Rose.
I saw the Bankless one.
The one when he had a conversation with Kevin Rose, it was interesting in the way that he shared. He already had like a complete storyline. He already had all of the worlds mapped out. He had everything kind of planned out for it, kind of already in his mind's eye.
Yeah. Okay. Yep.
So I didn't feel like there was a mode where it was like you coming up with a type of deal.
Gotcha.
But in saying that, I haven't checked out the Bankless one, which probably won't.
Yeah. Probably one is enough. How long do you chat with Kevin Rose for? How long do you chat for him?
Like an hour.
Yeah, okay.
Maybe more than an hour.
I think he was on Bankless for an hour and a half, something like that. Maybe even getting closer to 2 hours.
I did see, I'm just reading through as well, the conversation with Petar, and you were saying about you with depopulation.
Yeah. I had a couple of someone else.
You clarified that as well.
Someone else said something very similar, and I was like, "Damn, gotta nip this in the bud." I'm not. I was somewhat tongue in cheek when I was saying all those things. Right, if I minimize that. Okay. Apologies for the lateness, people. Just we'll start in exactly 1 minute. Just need to check that the audio is coming through fine and dandy, and I'll need to close that window so I can hear it coming in. Change that over to here. Do this thing there. Yeah. How does that sound? How do we sound? Oh, yeah, there we go.
Do you sound good?
Yep. Sounds nice. Close this. All right, and I shall run this one. Get my notes up.
Let me get my notes up. Non-existent.
Why do you have no notes, Juan?
No notes. I actually have been finding better with no notes, actually.
Fuck, that is the shittest excuse. Look at this, people. He's saying it's better, and he's taken no notes.
Better.
That is the ultimate justification for laziness that I've ever heard.
Does it count as no notes in the sense that I've thought about it, I just haven't written it down?
Okay, that's acceptable.
That's acceptable. I've
I've
thought it through.
Still better.
I've thought it through in my mind. I don't know. I'm playing with the fact that having it always in front of me.
Fix that now.
Takes me away from just thinking on the fly a little bit.
What?
I'm more powerful than thinking on the fly.
Fucking powerful.
Well, this comes back to the same with speeches or conversations when I have with my team. I'm shitter if I'm reading, and I notice a few other people do this at work, and it works for them where they read it from text, and it works for them and they read it through and they're just reading line for line, and it's quite well articulated.
Yeah, okay.
I talk better if it's just off the cuff of something I've thought about.
I do get what you mean. I would just say you're liable to forget some things if you do it like that. But yes, I do get what you mean. A couple of times I have been like, oh, I shouldn't have read this directly from my notes. I should have just looked at it whilst you were talking, gone, okay, yep, I get it. And then
I had enough comments for people, and maybe whoever's live right now to listen to us. I have had enough people saying that when I'm looking at my phone, it looks like I'm not paying attention, and it looks a little bit odd. So I was like, okay, fair.
Yeah, well, whatever. You can't please them all. All right, here we go. Welcome everyone to another Mere Mortals Musing episode. We are now into the December section of the year 2022. Is this the truth? We're going to have to seek and find out. We've got Kyrin here on this side.
Got Juan on the other side.
And a Musings episode is where we have a deep conversation with a lighthearted touch, but focusing on the deepness today. We're really getting into particular notes and this one is a topic I came up with, truth seeking. So this was somewhat related to the last one. It was popping in my head when we were talking about conspiracy theories. Yep. And even the one before that were talking about complete transparency. I was like, it would be nice to, definition time. I don't want to talk about truth. I don't want to talk about what truth is. Yeah. I don't want to talk about subjectivity of some people saying this and some people saying that. No, I don't care about that. Yep. I'm just talking about if you're on a mission to find something, whether it be big or small or whatnot, how do you distinguish between maybe what is something that's useful to you and relatively true? So it doesn't have to be like, this ant walked in this particular line over this, series of centuries and blah, 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 blah. It was like, no, the ant walked somewhere. That's fine. So it doesn't have to be like ingrained, super detailed truth. That's just useful for the purposes of what you're looking for as well.
So maybe can I say it another way? I guess we're trying to talk about what is the preciseness of the truth that you need in various different instances.
Yeah, maybe. Okay. So
that's what suits me. Is like, well, how precise do you want to be? Like, do you want to be like supremely precise with something?
No. So let's start off with an example. So this past week, I was looking at a couple of things, and they all popped up, and I was like, I'm going to have to research this a little bit. So the three things were demisexual, Merkle trees, and Pushkin. So
demisexual, Merkle trees, and Pushkin.
Yeah. Yep. So at various times, for various reasons, something popped up at me, and I can explain them, I guess. Yep. I was having a conversation with my dad and brother about demisexuality, however that came up. Merkle trees, because people were talking about proof of reserves, and I was like, oh, well, what is this thing? And then Pushkin, because I was doing a review on Evgeny on Edge, and he gave me shit for my pronunciation, which was actually pretty good.
Was it pretty good? Was it Evgeny?
Evgeny. Yeah. So I was looking at this up, and I was like, okay, I want to seek some truth here, and like the basic thing is I need to find out what I want to know in 5 minutes or less.
Sure.
That's the kind of truth seeking in this instance. So did I need to know cryptographic, background of the history of cryptography to find out what a Merkle tree is and all the underlying hashing and things like that? No, I just needed the rough structure of, okay, what is this thing and how does this relate to proof of reserves? Same with Pushkin. I just needed to roughly know, when he lived and died, what the book is maybe renowned for, which I might not have known of, some additional details about the book, and then same with Demisexual. In this case, I was looking, okay, how many people actually would say that they're demisexual, and is this actually a real thing? So that's the kind of truth seeking that I was looking for there in this particular instance. So you can imagine I don't need to know what goes on in the mind of a demisexual, read a whole life history about one.
Gotcha.
About someone who claims or is one. Yeah, something like that.
Okay.
So were your notes along these lines? Did I explain that sufficiently enough to you?
Yeah, okay, no, that makes sense. That makes sense, yeah.
Cool. All right, so what did I do? Well, with all of these, I stuck to pretty much Wikipedia and Wiktionary when I was using this.
I don't think I've ever used Wiktionary.
Yeah, I use it a fair bit for definition of verbs. I find it good. I usually scan for a key point. And so in this case, it was the date of creation. So this was demisexual. So want to take a guess at when demisexual was first talked about, created?
Let's say 600 AD.
600 AD?
Yep.
Yeah, 2006. So
2006?
Yeah.
Wow, what the hell? Really?
Yep. That's what Wiki says.
Sorry. The word, like that word itself. Okay.
There you go. Well, I guess, I don't know who was the first person who thought about Twitter. It was probably someone like 5000 AD, 5000 BC. And they just...
Well, what I guess it's kind of like, it's the concept of demisexual being what we understand it. So 2006, like say, I found this out just recently, so again, kind of truth thinking. What was the first Harry Potter? I put it into a quiz for work. What was the first Harry Potter novel, short story that was written? It was in 1972 by some Polish, can't remember her name, person in 1972.
Well, that's
called Harry Potter, and it was about nothing to do with Harry Potter, but they were basing it like being like that's the first Harry Potter story.
Question.
But then you kind of like dig into it. It's not about anything to do with wizardry or anything like that. Gotcha. But anyways, in the context of that, Harry Potter is not. It's not really that. It's like somewhere down the line. So
correct.
Okay, 2006.
Yep. So I also found a graphic about Merkle trees and how it's actually used in IPFS. I was like, okay, yeah, that's kind of useful. And dueling. So this is where I was getting into, following the thread and was like, oh, this is some things relating to dueling. This is how Pushkin died. This is why. This is kind of the general things that behaviors that they should follow when they were dueling and things like this. So for each case, I found some sort of information of truth seeking of roughly what I wanted. And then I suppose this is where it's like the truth seeking part and maybe something that's helpful for people at home, which was I did a quick scan of the sources and I've come to a kind of a conclusion that more volume is good, but quality matters more. So in each, if you use Wikipedia, in each of these, there's the main section, like brief little title thing, the meat, which is where I say I find the good stuff, and then right at the end there's all the sources. And so the demisexual one, I think had like 70 something sources attached to it. Not great sources. Not good. Man. There were BuzzFeed, there were news sites, there were blogs. Sure. So not the highest quality of stuff. The Merkle trees ones, they were pretty much all from journals with proper ISBN links to that as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's international standard of book naming, something like that, or book numbering. So how to find a book, no matter if it's written in English or Cantonese or whatnot, there's a number attached to it in a system. And then for the Pushkin one, it was a lot of historical sources. So, getting into, I guess, more what I would call weaker sources, but certainly better than BuzzFeed.
Better than a blog.
So if I'm looking up something really quickly, needs to be done in less than 5 minutes, that's kind of my process there. Use Wikipedia, and I've got some rules of thumb that I'll go on a little bit later about how I seek the truth as well. So that was one example of truth thinking. Do you have a process for yourself? Say you mentioned you need to look something up, and rough time limit of 5 minutes. What are the things that you're looking for? How do you go about seeking whatever it is that you're seeking?
Yeah, I think
because you don't have to use the internet. You could just ask a random person on the street, "Hey, do you know what a Merkle tree is? What do you think about demisexuality?"
Often they might be like, "Oh, I have no idea what you're talking about." I don't know. I find it hard with if you're putting the 5-minute cap to it as well. That's a interesting and difficult thing. I'm probably vying away in my truth seeking to be a little bit more in depth with everything that I'm getting into, and I feel like that's starting to come more and more. Whereas maybe at 20 years old, I would have been satisfied with a really quick Wikipedia check. Cool, that says this.
And you would have just trusted Wikipedia?
Trust it. And obviously trust whatever I came across online, really. Like if it says this, cool, fantastic, that's what must be what's happening. I've taken it for the word. Now I would feel concerned if something of enough importance that I'm trying to articulate or talk about, if I'm only spending that much to really verify. If it was something, again, this is just like not something to learn about. Let's just say, I don't know. Yeah. With Merkle trees, something like that, right?
Hairs on black holes. I heard that recently. I could have gone down that path.
Hairs on black holes.
Hairy black holes.
I've never heard this. What?
It's it's just a physics way of explaining something that's, it's probably like vapor gases which come out in a certain way, gotcha. Or how they release some sort of radiation. I can't remember.
Okay.
Whatever it is.
Fair.
That sort of thing where it's like, okay, I gotta look at this quick.
Cool. Okay, yeah, that's true. Okay, well, in the level of quickness and this is why I was kind of getting back to, and maybe a place, the scale of precisionness, there's going to be like on the very low end.
Yeah.
It is going to be a quick Google, and whatever Google like just throws back at me, cool. That's good enough for me. However, and I'm not saying that I'm doing this right now, but I am very tempted to use the new GPT-3 AI text form basis to basically ask those questions and read whatever response that is, because it's just an amalgamation of Wikipedia, whatever text comes along, whatever, and just use that.
Okay.
I want to play around with that to see if that's going to be good enough. That might be enough for just a quick little.
Is that a website you can use? How do you get that?
OpenAI. So have you played around with it?
No, I've seen a couple of people.
Oh, you've seen a couple of pictures. So for folks at home, if you want to play around with it, go to OpenAI.
I can bring it up.
They have the beta version of this now, which you can basically create yourself a little profile. And yeah, man, it's incredibly powerful. Like it's really, really quite good. And you go to find the beta section where you can actually type in text and ask it questions, make it compose something. You can actually do things like compose a article talking about birds in Pushkin style, and it will do it. And I find that fascinating. But specifically, what I actually wanted to do is, give me an idea of something. So
is there somewhere I can just do it, or I have to download an API?
No, you actually have to join and go into it.
There's a little try button here.
See if you can see. I'll be doing it live because it might be interesting as we go through. I might just talk it through as you try to do this.
Yeah. So I'm creating an OpenAI account at the moment.
Awesome. So yeah, if you just basically, and again, running it through as Kyrin's looking through this, create an account. You'll get the account. Go to the beta program. Go into the text interaction method, and you'll be able to find an ability for this. So I'm starting to, and I'm not saying I do this right now, folks. What I'm saying is I perhaps might be leaning down this path to get some very quick burst of information quickly. I had another example where we were talking with some family members a couple of days ago, and someone was asking something about inositol and something else, and the experiences of that with PCOS, which
what words did you just say?
Inositol and PCOS is, so this is like female hormonal things, and it spat out a good amount of information there that I could have read and gone, cool, that I'm happy with this sort of information. So take that as a first level of information. I think I want to move towards this path. If not, literally putting it into URL, quick Google, that's it. That's all I'm doing. For more extended things though, I am starting to trend towards really being quite precise. Like I'm not landing in the middle anymore almost. Like I'm not landing myself on, hey, I either want to know some things imprecisely from a truth-seeking perspective, or I'm going to go real deep. And so a real deep example was if you would have heard me talking about this a little while ago on Meandering Session, but the Netflix doco of Ancient Apocalypse and the Younger Dryas impact theory. But I'll get back to this. I just want to make sure that you can jump into it. So go into the... scroll up. Go into your...
So we're still just looking at things once, not talking into his mic.
Keep talking.
Yeah. So at the moment we're just going to the website of OpenAI. I had to enter all these details. So now the overlords have all my details in terms of number and email and all that sort of stuff. I'm not sure we're going to be able to do it in real time.
I reckon we might be able
to. Leave it, man.
Okay.
It's too hard.
It is for another time, folks.
Too hard.
We'll play around with it. We'll talk about it later. But in any case, getting back onto the top of things. So deep things are the Younger Dryas impact theory. So for me, where I was finding it really, really quite useful was I watched the Netflix 8 episodes and I really enjoyed that. Then I kind of went, okay, cool. I can see what information is being presented, and they're not presenting it like in an egregious way to try and encapsulate what is right and what is wrong. They're just kind of presenting information and make up your own story. But for a truth-seeking perspective there, I really went down the path of, okay, I want to find why is this wrong, basically. So in my truth-seeking ways, journal like articles, like properly published articles from publications that weren't just dodgy places, and you can find out whether publications are dodgy. They have like their own ranking system within publications and journals, and bottom of the rung journals, basically no one wants to get published in them unless you just want to get something randomly published. So you can kind of dice that out. So I've been finding myself specifically there, spending a good 10-15 minutes in terms of, okay, if I want to really see what the opposing view to these things.
So this is maybe like an intermediate level, right? So this isn't a 5-minute thing.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's what I was saying. So my quick view, it's quick URL. Imagine that, or this thing, this ChatGPT.
Do you use Wikipedia?
No, not really, not anymore. Really, it's just whatever comes through on Google page. Like just at the first section, I'll just take that as like enough, or this sort of process, and then it'll be all the way at the other end where I'm spending 15, 20, 30 minutes just really going in deep in something, trying to really think it through, as opposed to like almost get like the 2 or 3 or 4 different versions of information, story presented, and try to rationalize it in my mind to go, okay, based on all of those, I'm going to land here in my spectrum of how I understand it. Cool. That's my truth-seeking behavior. So okay. I think I'm moving. I would have often found myself 80% down on the like less precise. I'll just take whatever comes, and then 20% in the middle. I'll say now I'm like 60% really quick, 40% out towards the extents. Another example is more so in NFTs, especially things like pre-minting and minting and stuff like that. The truth thinking specifically on making sure like everything that I'm doing being suggested as like verified sources is what I expect. I'm not just taking, random people's advice for granted. So, there's a first layer with NFTs where you see, I get a notification every single day on Twitter of like someone tagging me on a NFT thing. It's like, oh my God, I can't believe that.
A bot?
Bot saying I've released this, I've released that.
Not every day.
I get them. I get them every single day. So
a couple of days a week for me.
So, with that, I go, okay.
I'm not as much a degen as you.
I'm not going and seeing that as like, okay, I don't have to put anything towards true thinking. I've kind of like gone past that. But there is aspects of, say, fake pre-mints getting put out, fake URLs. And so for me, even if someone, even reputable, is sharing it, I kind of go, I question it a bit more nowadays. You go, okay, that might be wrong. I'm checking myself the URL. I'm checking the network tab. I'm checking the exact APIs being called. I'm learning enough now. So for specifically when you're connecting contracts, I can kind of read the contracts and I can be like, okay, I can go and like verify that contract on the contract channels, the exact lines of code, what's actually trying to do. Awesome. Like I've verified that myself. Very hard. So, and I guess that leans towards that. That's more than 5 minutes to verify.
Yeah. This is actually a good one, considering the kind of age we're getting into where a lot of stuff is coming online and digital now. And, even if you're not particularly into NFTs and other chains, it's still very, I think, important to do this with, Bitcoin or really any asset that you have online. Hell, even bloody, using passwords and things like that. I've started a process where I basically, before I use something new, I have to kind of triple check. So I'll triple check like I'll go onto the actual, first thing type in. So in this case, I was looking at a new wallet because I'd heard some stuff around MetaMask and some privacy things. And I was like, that sounds a bit dodgy to me. I'll use a different wallet. So like, okay, well, what's another good wallet to use? So, type into Google Ethereum, MetaMask, or just MetaMask alternative, something like that. And go to a blog, and then it's got, like 20 different suggestions. And kind of just randomly go through and pick one. And then I see like, oh, okay, this one seems to have what I'm looking for. Actually, very first thing, tried to test it on my phone in Google Play Store. It was on there. No reviews. No ratings. Ooh. A little bit of a red flag. I'm gonna go check elsewhere. Yeah, sure enough, there's no mobile version. It's only desktop. Nice. So, saved myself some hassle right there with that. And then, the further I go down, the more I start just like jumping back from like what I think is their official Twitter account, typing something in YouTube, and using something in Google and trying to use this triangulation method of, okay, that logo looks the same there. They're using that same kind of username here. This kind of thing looks legit. Check the comments. Yep. It's either got, not many comments or at least there's like no red flag comment, things like that. And so I'm starting to use, I think, a kind of triangulation method of being same with an NFT. What's their official policy? Does this match where the policy they say on Twitter? In their Discord, do people talk about that sort of thing? So I'm also trying to use, I think, this is not perhaps truth seeking, but truth using maybe. Like I want to use something and I want to find out if that's legit or not. Yeah, it's getting to the point where it's like I have to use 2 or 3 things. I don't trust any search engine anymore to spit out what I think is the right thing at the very get-go.
Yeah, and I think it comes to I'll talk about it I think after the Boostagram Lounge, but I think it really, truth thinking fundamentally comes down to the extent you apply it, the importance that it has, or the value of the object at hand, the conversation at hand, to it being truthful. I think that's sort of super important thing to denote how much energy, how much time you should be spending on it. So, let's talk about that after the Boostagram Lounge.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good to me.
Are there any comments in there that we want to jump on at all?
No. Joey says, cross-referencing from different sources. Yeah, different sources. That's the important point. Using dissenting views where whenever possible. And then when it comes to truth, if you start with your comment with "I think that," ... just shut up. Which is also. Yeah, I've got some. This gets into some of my rules of thumbs actually.
Yeah, so, we can talk about that as well.
Yeah. Thanks, Joey.
All right, now for the Boostagram Lounge, folks.
Boostagram Lounge.
For those who might be unaware, although we've talked about it a lot on this podcast, and you'll see it come up on a Boostagram comment. Actually, we are Valley for Valley enabled, and so these are Boostagrams from our listeners supporting the show. So as you listen through, and you want to be you want to see your name on here. It doesn't matter how small or large the Boostagram that comes through. If you want to be heard on the podcast, make sure you're sending it through. You're participating in the ecosystem. So
the circular economy, circular sat economy.
It begins with Dave Jones. He sent through the weekly boost for the Mere Mortalite Nation. 12,112 sat sent using Cron.
Comes through regular like clockwork. And
Absolutely.
I actually had to correct James Cridlin recently because basically the conversation that I was having with Trevor got extended and they had this back and forth on Pod News Weekly Review. They changed the name. And he was on there and he was sort of debating Sam Sethi. And I'm rooting for Sam. Sam was like, my hero in this case because basically he explains things way better than I could in person. And, Trevor was making the point, but, the reason Patreon and PayPal is so good, it's got these automatic things. And I'm like, boom, this actually happens. Dave's the one. He's done it.
Boom.
The man. Granted, it's not for everyone yet.
Exactly.
But these things will come.
Exactly. So, we're still early in the space, folks. Early in the space. So, again, once again, Dave, really do appreciate it.
Really do appreciate it.
Now, the ever-present Petar.
Petar, the Slav.
First sends 2,222 sat sent using Fountain.
Docs.
So he says, so if don't see inflation as theft, do you see counterfeiting as just another legit way to make money?
So I was thinking about this, Peter. My problem with this word is theft. I'm kind of on board with it. I am kind of on board with inflation as theft. But this is one of those words where I'm like, I want to be kind of careful with it. Because for me, theft is really, you're stealing directly from something that someone already owns. And so it's kind of, in this case, inflation is theft. It's more like an intangible theft. You're stealing from something which somebody hasn't even received yet. It's kind of like if I was going to, deny you, like I trap you in my house and I'm going to deny you access to clean food, water, and things like that. And most people would say, okay, you've taken their human right or something like that. But have I thieved their human right? No, I'm kind of unsure of that. So for me, it's just the word, but I do agree. I'm sliding ever closer to the point of becoming intolerable of inflation in any form. Yeah. The more I start to get into like the Austrian school of economics, it makes some things more sense to me.
Yeah, look,
and probably actually, sorry, just to jump in, it'll maybe even make sense to you if you dive into that a bit about the kind of anti-growth stuff, because a lot of the basis of the Keynesian is we need to have 3% inflation or 2% or whatever to stimulate spending of money because. And then there's no real because. It's just it's just because spending of money is good.
It's because more spending is better, and so that lets the continuation of that.
And that kind of gets into my anti-growth sort of feeling. So
growth in the financial system is a little bit of a different game. I would also just say that perhaps maybe the incendiary word of theft, like it's the application of theft. Like you probably call it something different and it'd be the same meaning, but I think it's just the strong use of theft. It's
agreed.
I feel like that word is being used to attract activity towards it, like a bit of a hive of, I'm saying this, come and talk about it.
All the Bitcoiners I meet here in Brisbane, they all are very comfortable with saying inflation is theft, and I'm kind of on the fence about it.
Yeah, look, my 2 cents I think is that if there's a mentality of 100% this is theft and the current system is like completely broken, it gives me the idea of like, whether you want to talk about Web 3 and Web 2 and all that, you can't just jump into a new system. You can't just all of a sudden abandon the previous system and go to the new system unless something dramatic, you're ready for pain, you're ready for like destruction. Here I'm in preference of like, hey, there should be some connection across the both and migrate over in a nicer way. But who's to know what's going to happen? Yep. Now another one from Petar. This is 3,333 sats using Fountain. Is it just me, or does Kyrin resemble English football star Harry Kane? Minus the hair. Well, funny you say that. I
can't tell if he's taking the piss or not. Has he heard that this came up in Japan and there was a...
I don't think so. I don't think he's heard the story. But basically, Petar, you are not alone in this world because this has happened to us in person in a Japanese club when someone came up to Kyrin and did say, hey, you look like Harry Kane. Now, this was back when Kyrin did have hair.
Yeah. So I think I have the picture on my phone. So while you're still talking, I'll see if I can find it and
flash it on the camera.
I'll maybe send it to myself and then be able to bring it up. I'll see. It's I'm unsure if I'll be able to find this or not.
Okay, well we'll see how he goes. Here's another one. Received donation message from McIntosh. Now McIntosh says you should turn up the V for V talk. This stuff is important. Patreon and PayPal have a demonstrable history of censorship, prejudice. Ads both suck as part of the listening experience and can certainly sway journalistic endeavors. There's literally nothing left. Not to mention there is zero innovation in the traditional podcast space. Podcasting 2.0 and V for V is the future. That's 2,222 sats. Sent using Phantom. McIntosh, you're at the heart of it, mate. And goes exactly to what we were just talking about around the Patreon and PayPal examples. Look.
Yeah, I get excited, man. I was listening to this German podcast called Bussengalaber.
Bussengalaber.
Yeah. And look, I barely understand any of it, to be honest. It's very, I'm stepping up the level of my kind of German listening.
Yeah.
And I did hear him talking about V for V, though, and I kind of understood a bit. And I was like, yes, he fucking gets it. Like, and it got me all excited and passionate again. I was like, yes, this is the real deal. And I'm bringing up on the screen right now, and you'll see it in your on your podcast apps. Mm-hmm. This is Kyrin Harry Kane down.
Damn, can't believe you have that
in the Brazilian.
That's very good. That's very good.
Still on my phone, and I don't know what these symbols mean. Do you?
No,
I've never bothered to figure out what these things
say. No, it probably says Harry Kane, but
it's like, what a shit cunt.
Yeah, probably. You're like, I'm actually lying to him.
There you go.
Now, let's finish off the Boostagram, but before we get out of the Boostagram, I want to do something as we verge into this continuation of truth.
Yeah.
The final one, we got one live. Proud mum of Liam F. I just ask Liam F, and then whatever he says, that's the truth about. Shout out to my son Liam F. I'm proud of you. 112 sats and using Fountain. So there you go, Liam. The source of all knowledge.
Thank you, Liam F. and his mum.
Now, I'm going to do this live. I'm going to send you a screenshot of how this works for the playground so that people can actually see it.
Ask it what a Merkle tree is.
So ask it, what is a Merkle? How do you spell Merkle? MKL like that? What is a Merkle tree? So we're doing this live, folks. I'm going to send this to Kyrin. Basically typing it into beta.openai so Kyrin can see the full experience. So you submit it in, and then it'll go, boop. It'll just pop out some screen. So I'll send you this screenshot now.
Yep.
And I'll just send it to your phone.
WhatsApp. WhatsApp's good.
WhatsApp's easy. So what you will see, folks, is I just wanted to make sure we show this for folks, is that I've just gone into the website, quickly looked it up. I'm able to ask it a question, and the information that comes back, it is sourced from... So OpenAI uses the entirety of the web to bring back this particular example. So it'll tell you a Merkle tree. So for those who are not watching, it says a Merkle tree, also known as a hash tree, is a type of tree used in cryptography to store hashes of data. It is a type of data structure that stores hashes of the data and its children in a way that allows efficient and secure verification of the data's integrity. It is named after German cryptographer Ralph Merkle, who painted the idea in 1979.
I think that takes it exactly from Wikipedia.
Wikipedia? There you go. Yeah.
If you
had to like guess where it's getting all this information.
That seems very familiar, that
sort of
paragraph.
like wording as well.
Yeah.
What it does do as well, and so there's just a bit of a playing around, but you can say, write a tagline of a ice cream shop that sells chocolate, right? And see, this is where you have to kind of get a little bit tricky because, these things that it creates, it's like, ooh, okay, where the hell has it pulled this from? Because it's not so much truth, it's just kind of generating its own truth now. How truth is it? That's where I kind of was getting stuck, and I wanted to show you. I'm getting stuck a little bit on, am I going to go transition to this? Because even though it's creating things from existing information, I don't specifically know if it's building up something completely new on its own. So
Yeah.
So I wanted to pull that out.
Yeah, okay.
Comments in there?
Yeah, Peter, he asked the question which I didn't want to
Here we go.
didn't want to deal with.
Here we go.
Here's another question. Does absolute truth even exist? If it does exist, is it knowable? If it's not knowable, would humans be able to tell the difference between unknowability and non-existence? And then he says, after years of thought on this topic, I think the best we can do is use heuristics to understand the world. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. Yeah. Thank you for answering.
Yeah, I mean, that's the truth. And
we did say at the start, like, we're not trying to figure out what is absolute truth in this this particular episode. We'll save that for the next one.
And I think, and I think it's that particular question as well. It is, and we've mentioned this in the past as well. Viewpoints, limits, containers where you see that particular question all changes everything and anything that you're talking about. You know, is it when you look in the night sky, is that the truth of the universe? No. Is the Hubble telescope the truth? Not in full context. Is the James Webb telescope the full truth now?
Definitely James. Come on. He's got my back.
Yeah, he's got your back. You know, again, probably, but not to its full extent. It's kind of like you can keep on going. Like you can keep finding more precision.
Truth's all the way down.
Truth, yeah. No, not turtles. Truth all the way down. So, but let's talk about those examples that you had. Well,
you brought up a good point, which was, okay, how do you seek out when you're seeking out something much deeper and much harder? So if you were going to tackle the question of what is absolute truth, and you're not trying to do it in 5 minutes, and you're willing to spend as long as it takes to figure it out, what sort of methods and what sort of things how would you go about doing that?
Yeah, okay. So and the example I think we were talking before the Boostagram Lounge was, let's just say something that's really important to you. And so you're like, okay, cool, I need to know this. Or
you think there's something really deep there.
Yeah. So I really want to know. I guess an example for me might be something to do with fitness, not so much something that I care less about, like micronutrients, but maybe that I once upon a time really, really cared about. Let's just say hypertrophy things, or how much rest time you should need, or sleep time, or deep sleep, or REM sleep. Cool, like I really care about that. And I think for me, it's very much try to get a gourmet, a buffet of things, of different opinions, ideas, different viewpoints, pros, cons, to sort of mix it up in my soup to go, okay, as much of that content that I've compiled, then I think what I tend to do is I'll amalgamate enough hours. I'm going to say there's got to be enough hours of me just looking into things, listening to things. If, depending on where it is, I'm talking specifically here from like fitness, is it down to the level of chemicals? Is it all the way down to the level of, precise neurons? Sometimes it is, and I really enjoy that. Mm-hmm. And then, because in myself, unless, I'm a brilliant scientist or philosopher, and I'm not, folks, I am a mere mortal. I will then use that soup of information and then compare it against well-presented views on the matter. And if it kind of seems like it matches based on sort of my rational, objective look and that particular sample, I go, cool.
Yeah, okay.
That's my truth. I also, it's almost like it also validates because I kind of understand where they're coming from. And so, yeah, a really clear example here is if you just want to Google hot temperatures and cold temperatures effects on muscle growth, on recovery, you will not be able to find a good response on Google. Like you're not going to get that. It isn't going to happen.
It's a bit contested.
So for myself, it's been sort of a journey of listening to various podcasts. I've read plenty of books that have like that particular conversation, within it in streams. I've looked at it very directly. I've tried to look at almost chemical levels. So why not? There's very different things between like, hey, you want to do it for recovery. You want to do it for something else. You want to do it for growth. You want to do it for protein release. You want to do it for protein chakras. There's all these things. And so I've got to be like, okay, specifically for me in this soup, I ladle it out and I'm like, okay, that's what I need. And then I'll go and look at people who I really respect, who seem to know their shit and I can also understand. So for me, it's like Andrew Huberman. There's other people as well that I go, okay, that they're presenting kind of fits in with what I've just researched. Cool. That's my absolute truth for the moment. That's how I've probably form a strong view on something. And then so if something new was to come to bear or as information, it would have to kind of either be from those sources that I really trust, or something so critical that changes, that soup that I've just talked about. So maybe that would probably be my approach on really important things where I'm trying to be extremely precise about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So for me, I've lost my notes, so I need to bring it back up. So for me, depending on the importance. So quick and dirty, I've noticed it's mostly text-based things is what I will read.
Text-based things.
And so
I think less audio things.
Yes, correct. So it'll be something I need to be able to scan rapidly and access rapidly. And so this is why, thank God for the internet and the digital age. Before that, I'm sure it would have been the encyclopedia. That would have been the
way to go to it. Yep.
Like look up, I don't know, Argentina. What does the encyclopedia say on Argentina? Good, done. For me nowadays, I think longer stuff would probably be. It would need to have. Everyone keeps using this. I'll use it. Proof of work. It needs to have proof of work done on it. So it needs to proof of effort. Perhaps is the better term.
Proof of energy expenditure for Petar there. Would enjoy that too. Yeah. Well, in the end, it's all energy. Yep.
Everything comes down to energy. And so this, in this case, it would be probably long form audio. So long form audio, because I think there's something that kind of comes out in that. It's hard to disguise things if you're talking for, an hour and a half or two, if you were trying to disguise something. So kind of the truth kind of like seeks out, slips out in that one. A book, because, usually that has gone through such an extensive period of writing, rewriting, editing, different people looking at it, rewriting again, publication. It's not. You could probably whip up 30,000 words in, I don't know, a couple of weeks, a month maybe, but 30,000 good words, that'll take years to really get good. And the effort in terms of videos as well. So even if it's kind of a short form content, if I can see that a lot of effort has been put into the actual creation of the video, that's kind of a signal for me that it's worth at least checking out a little bit. And so this is where, if it's an infographic, so say I'm looking up the Aristotle on YouTube, and you'll find a bunch of ones which have like detailed graphics of the life of Aristotle and things like that. I find those more compelling than if it was just a random guy in front of a camera just saying, oh yeah, Aristotle was born in 16 something and that I find kind of more compelling. So that's actually there's some effort into
that's an interesting one, because I get where you're coming from. I get the fact that like effort's been put, so it is more compelling, and so you do find it to be more believable, which I think most people would fall under that, which is fine for the most part. But I think it can certainly be, if you really look at it, be like, well, am I trusting here the information being presented, or am I just compelled and persuaded by the presentation that's being put in front of me?
Yeah.
Again, this kind of completely separate, but it's like, the fact that someone like Sam Bankman-Fried presented himself and probably guided people to be like, oh, he's very smart, he's X, Y, Z. And then underlying there's like, oh, well, that actually wasn't the truth. Whatever is the truth, who knows, who cares? But there can be some misguidings in looking at it at face value and thinking, oh, it looks good. It looks fine. It looks like effort's been put in. Good enough. I'll believe it.
Yeah.
However, that's like a heuristic that I think most people do apply. That's kind of like, if you see effort being applied, you kind of expect that the information they're presented then is also to be trusted.
Here's just an example just related to that one. So, a week before the whole FTX scandal, he had a debate with Eric Voorhees. Did you ever listen to that?
I didn't actually know.
Okay. What comes across in that is Eric is well prepared. He knows, he sticks to his main point, which is we can't have any tolerance of DeFi being regulated at all. And he always, no matter how much the conversation drifts off to another point, he yanks it by the chain and brings it back on this path. And if you listen to anything of Eric, he's very, he stays on a path, which is, people ask him about SBF, what should happen? What about, do you think how much responsibility goes to these? And he's like, let's just bring it back to the main point, which was this is fraud. This is fraud. Like this is fraud. And it's like, yeah, there's all these fun things about drug and sex and random, like, let's bring it back to this is fraud. And this is fraud not related to crypto in general. It's not a failing of Bitcoin. It's not a failing of, Ethereum or these written protocols. It's a failing of a person. And this is why the whole crypto thing exists, because people fail and regulation does shit jack all to save us in a lot of cases.
Yep.
So in that case, you could even look at it and see it in his appearance, where he was dressed shabbily in front of this random computer desk.
Oh, absolutely. But I think
so. I wouldn't say just because he rocked up. That's one of the cases where I'm like, he's literally just rocked up on camera. There's no proof of effort here. Whereas Voorhees was,
True. Okay.
Yeah, I think there's little micro things like that where you can analyze it even deeper and be like, nah, that's not that effortful.
Yeah, I guess what would you do? Because I guess on the other example I'm trying to get to is say you read a book. This was the sperm wars.
Yep.
And then well presented.
Yep.
Written well. Now, not to say that all of it was a lie, but then there was parts that were not true, right? So, do you think that if you were to read text like that again? So you picked up a book in a couple of months' time. Is there anything that you would do differently to confirm that is the truth?
Oh, yeah. Well, this is, I suppose, getting on to the other section, which is, one-off things. If you're trying to find the truth of, is Bitcoin going to change the world? We both kind of went through this in 2021. 2021. We're seeing oh shit, this stuff's actually matters and it's going to have a big impact, but can I trust it? How much am I willing to kind of invest in it in terms of my own time, energy and money and things like that? I really hope you didn't just use one random interview of SBF as a guide as to what's important in this area. It's no, I'll read 5 different books. I'll listen to thousands of hours of audio, and yeah, sure, you see all sorts of bullshit. I've seen so many shit videos on YouTube, and some of them presented in a really compelling way in a light as well, which shows okay, they put a ton of effort into this. So it's the kind of conglomeration as well. Yeah, if you're trusting one single one-off source, that's
it's not enough. It's not enough.
Not enough.
I think ultimately what I come to in my mind for truth seeking is that...
Well, it sounds like you're summarizing. Are you summarizing here? Because I got one more thing I want to get over.
Okay, let's go for that one first.
So my last one is just rules of thumb.
Oh, yeah.
So this is just some things that I've put together where this is how truth seeking, small or large, this is kind of the way I think about it. So amount of effort put into creating it. So we talked about that. So long audio, detailed videos and things like that beat a newsreel, TikTok video and random blog article. So there's levels to it, and you can kind of, you can't always get the highest quality. So, try and find the next highest quality above that. Over time, I generally find semi-trusted sources. So I've already talked about Eric Voorhees, but I'll also Antonopoulos, but then I'll also, McIntosh, his Generational Wealth with Cryptocurrency podcast, Podcasting 2.0. Those sorts of things I'll generally trust them, and it's usually kind of reason-based expert beats media whore expert beats anonymous commentator or commenter beats a faceless corporation.
Yep.
That's kind of
that's some good levels.
General hierarchy. So if I'm considering the source of something, that's kind of, it goes along those levels. Stats and data reign supreme. So if something has a stat or data attached to it, if you go onto the Wikipedia for demisexual, it's not a whole lot of stats and data in there. I can tell you that. Yeah, I couldn't even find what I was trying to find out, which is how much of them are in the population. Google told me 1/3.
Good old Google.
That sort of thing. red flags are kind of like vague definitions, pop culture words, appeals to emotion, and then time. Just time is an amazing sorter of what is useful, if not necessarily true, I think. So, I'm reading Plutarch's book at the moment talking about the lives of seven kind of historical figures from 300 BC. How much of it is true? I'd say there's portions where he's like, Alexander did this in this situation. It's like, okay, probably not. And his reasoning for that is probably not what Plutarch says.
Yeah.
But I think there is a lot of useful truth in kind of the conglomeration of that book and looking, okay, what was it like in ancient Athens and in these times? What was the politics like? What did people find important? What kind of people led the best lives? Sure. And when you look at the book review, you'll see like, okay, there's actually some stuff that I've taken out from it, even though it may be, that particular topic talking about Alexander doing this is not so true. So I think time as well, the older the source is and it's still kind of relevant or useful, still talked about, that I think is also a good rule of thumb. Yeah,
no, it's good. A few others I would add to the hierarchical view that you post as well. I would add go from the most unbiased to biased, and that can be biased by preconceived information or relationship. It could be by the fact that they are benefiting from it or how close they are. Is,
like
for me, a person who's very unbiased across a lot of things is someone like a Tim Ferriss. For a lot of topics, it's, he himself is wealthy, doesn't really have to worry about too many other things. In putting out his NFT and you go to the frequently asked questions around his NFT, he makes it blatantly clear. There's not an investment. I might leave if I'm not finding this fun, X, Y, Z. He's putting it all out there. There's no bullshitting. Awesome. That sort of being, I guess, so not being as invested in the particular outcome. I think it also dwells on it being a better truth aspect of it. So it's that. Obviously, proven expertise as well, I would add, as opposed to unproven expertise. So, I'm going to have a propensity that if people have published in, reputable article, journals, and have done something for, again, time, for a long period of time, I might trust in that as opposed to someone who's brand new into learning physics and just goes oh, hey, cool, that's what I'm going to do. But yeah, so I'd probably just would add those ones as well. The only thing about data and stats, though, I think it'd be conscious of is that it can be it can be played with. So
a lot of
obviously
faulty data, faulty stats.
So there's and it can be truth. It can be the truth, but presented in a very different way.
Yes,
it's very different to say, I don't know,
cancer
rates are up by 1,000%. But it's actually gone from 1 person to 10 people, something like that. That's wildly different ratios and statistics that you can play around with. So
gender pay gap's a good one. Men make $1 for every 75 cents that a woman makes in general. Yes, true. But the reasons for that, let's look a bit deeper. Because if you just look at that and then you go from there to the patriarchy exists and they only value women 3/4
as much as
a man. That's a wrong leap to make.
Yeah, that's an extrapolation that is missing that all of the things are probably lying within that.
Yeah, for sure. So give me a summary, man. Sum up your thoughts on this.
I think it's dropped from mine, but basically, I think for me, truth seeking comes down to very simply apply it where it really matters. And I was actually listening to Neil deGrasse Tyson talking about giving an example around, how do we prove that the Big Bang actually happened, right? And he was kind of saying, well, it's not really the right question to ask, because the interviewer was talking about that there's new presentation or information being presented that maybe the Big Bang's older or it's from a multiverse and all this, and is the Big Bang wrong? And it was like, it's not really that it's wrong. It's more so that in the scientific, and so obviously it's in the scientific physics type of environment, but I think it applies everywhere, is that you can't just, you're building on top of perhaps existing truth into an even deeper truth. And so for me, the way the example you were saying was, Newton's law of physics, basically. It's not wrong. They're not wrong. They just apply, across a great context, in everyday life. A horse running, the moon, spaceship taking off, they all work under those laws. But then when you kind of go to, planets and the like, okay, you need to apply Einstein's special, law of relativity. Okay, cool. That's when you do it. But if you bring Einstein's law of relativity down into the box around just normal everyday life, it just looks like Newton's law of physics that already presented. So it's kind of like, well, this is the truth, but there's also the truth, and that truth is the same truth when it's here in this particular context. So is that the wrong truth? No, they're both truth. And it's kind of like, okay, well, for the context and where you need them, cool. You need it for that space. It's simple enough. You don't have to go and use this much more complicated setup. There's this truth here that's applicable. And so whether we're talking, again, about physics, just there, I kind of went, yeah, I kind of see that in the importance of the things that I'm dealing with. So, if I'm talking about how good a restaurant might be, like for me, I don't really give a shit. So, I might be like a quick review, a quick question to somebody. I'll be like, has anyone been to this restaurant or to an Italian restaurant? Do you think it's good? And they're like, yeah. I go, good enough. That's like N of 1, N of 2. I haven't done my reviews. For me, that's to Peter's point, it's not the absolute truth, but it's enough of a truth. For my truth seeking, that's enough. Or a quick Google. But if it's at the high end of importance for me, when it comes to life-changing decisions, maybe where I'm investing most of my capital, something like that, okay, you bet your bottom dollar I'm doing plenty of research, plenty of investigation, and I may, in the example there of the laws of physics, I might be looking at the special relativity and testing it out in various different permutations. Here's a direct example for me, more lights at home. For me, when I bought an investment property for myself, I went through some pretty stringent and differential checks in terms of, okay, cool. Currently the interest rates are at this percentage. If they were to drop to 4%, 3%, 2%, 1%, what does that look like in terms of my repayments, my return on capital over 10 years, the run rate of that particular property? If it goes up, what does that mean for the changes on water costs, tenant costs, property management costs, blah, 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 so that I've basically applied this across all these different permutations to go, okay, cool. So I've now encapsulated all the truth that I can find, all the different variables to it. It still looks like a good to go. I've looked into it all. Awesome. As opposed to just believing a quick Google and being like, will this be a good investment? Yes, no. Cool. No, I've done, as you say, numbers, checked it all out, done all my calculations. Wonderful. Cool. Ticks it all. Off you go. I've got that proof behind me. I've made the soup and I've checked it against credible sources. So
yeah,
I guess that's my take on truth seeking.
Yeah. To sum up for me, the key point I think you mentioned there, but we maybe didn't make explicit is we got to use it. You got to the real only tester that you can do in your everyday life is you putting it into action. So all that stuff about hot and cold and how it works on the muscles, well, you just got to put it into practice what you've found out, and that is the ultimate test of what it is that you're doing. So obviously it's better to get things more right more of the time, so you don't have to no one likes failing at things and wasting time, but there is that element of you have to put it in practice yourself. The game stuff that I read in the past, pretty much all of it is unless they're saying, and you do this in person and you're going to have to see what works for you. If they don't say that, it's almost like a non-starter. It's like, you're just talking, you're just saying things to maybe make me feel good. And so then I'll buy your program or whatever bullshit. So all of it, I think it's got to have that underlying kind of knowledge that whatever it is you're seeking, it depends on how much you're trying to use it for yourself. And in those instances where I was talking about, using a bridge to transfer assets from one place to the other, ultimately it's I just got to do it. Just got to figure it out. And it's also, I think, interesting to note that you don't have to be super kind of fully conscious aware, full consciousness each time you're doing one of these things.
No.
When I typed into Google, what is a demisexual, I wasn't analyzing to the nth degree. That came in the research portion for this conversation.
Yeah.
But I think it is important to think about the structures that you use. And so if I was using BuzzFeed instead of Wikipedia for my, I suppose general quick and dirty truth seeking, probably suboptimal.
Yeah.
Probably I'm not going to find a whole lot of useful information
if you're using,
and if I apply it into my everyday life,
it's going to be a challenge. Yeah. If you're using news article headlines to inform you,
correct,
you got some trouble coming at you.
And look, some people probably type into Google, what did SBF do wrong? And for probably a bunch of them, they'll get a New York Times article, fluff piece.
Yep.
That's, they need to look at their true self.
They need to pull back the veil and see the reality for what it is, folks.
Unless it works for them and they're stuck in that world, and who knows, maybe that world will win in the end, and it won't be the crypto world. I'm willing to bet on crypto though. So
there you go.
And I'm a fucking gun. So
that's been Musings for today, folks. Now, if folks enjoyed it, if they enjoyed listening and they went, damn, I liked it, I like this conversation. First of all, is there any comments that we want to touch on?
Joey and Peter were just having a little bit of a chat in the chat themselves, so I don't think there was anything particular.
Okay.
I think they're just doing their own thing.
Cool. Well, if folks want to, again, participate in the ability to send through value, or at least send us through comments directly if they're not joining us live, how are they going to do that?
Yeah. So we are a value for value podcast, which means we follow the model of giving value straight up front. It's free of charge, free anything. You don't have to
no censorship, no advertising, no nothing.
Don't have to do a single thing on your end, unless you want to help us out. And so we just ask for some value in return. You can do that by sharing this to someone who maybe uses BuzzFeed instead of Wikipedia. Maybe you want to send it to them and be like, these guys have some interesting points related to truth seeking. If we got any particular facts or things wrong, or if you have anything to say or contribute, maybe something we missed, maybe a different aspect, or clarifying a point. You know what I'd say?
I'd say for folks, I think utilize the mere mortals not as the paper of the fact, but as the magnifying lens that helps you go look towards something and then find out the truth. Because I think a lot of the times we will talk about things that are truth to us, or we've been informed about, or we know about, or we've learned about, etc. But I think the underlying idea that maybe looking at it as like magnifying glasses, and I think I like doing this with other people, okay, cool. They're helping me focus to see kind of like, okay, amongst the scattered amount of information all across around this, it seems like these are the important topics. Cool, I'll go find out about that and learn about it. So, if I gave you that valuable thing there and we're talking about it, then, use that and be like, send me through a Boostagram and say thank you for the magnifying glass conversation.
Yeah, for sure.
That's what I want to see.
And it is two-way, and it repeats again because Peter has talked about many of the sources he finds useful. Corey Clipstein, for example. So I went down and researched some of his stuff, and I was like, damn, he called FTX well before it actually happened. This guy, whatever method he is for using truth seeking in that respect, for predicting things, he's got it pretty bang on. Maybe there's some stuff I can learn from him. So yeah, it's a back and forth. And so like, as the mere mortals grow and get better, we hope that you as the listener and supporter grow and get better as well.
Correct.
And it's a feedback.
We're going symbiotic, to the top, it's a symbiotic relationship.
Symbiotic, yeah. We'll leech off you just as much as you leech off us.
Absolutely.
And yeah, so the best way to do that is go to a newpodcastapp.com. Fountain is pretty good. There's some exciting stuff coming out. Sam Sethi is creating his own app, which I think is going to be
really,
yeah.
Damn.
So I think that'll be, if I had to make a prediction, he's a pretty serious guy, and he fucking knows this shit. Like, and he was deep in the web when the internet was coming up, and like he knew his shit around TCP/IP, HTTP, all this stuff that I never had to bother and learn about. He gets Bitcoin, Boostagrams, all this sort of stuff. So I'm willing to bet this will be an app that we'll be talking about in a couple of months' time.
That's very cool.
Let's say 6 months' time, because he also has a habit of bloody promoting shit and fucking teasing it out like
taking
nothing
a little
else.
while.
So yeah,
well, there you go.
Something maybe a new app we can be talking about at the moment though. Check out Fountain. Castomatic is good, and Podverse is all good. Others, Breeze, Curacaster if you're on the desktop. Any of those are good.
Gonna be good. All right, folks. Hope you enjoyed. Take care. One out.
Kyrin out.
Peace. Good.
Thank you, my peeps in the chat. Petar, Mr. Joey, or is it Liam F's mum? Who even knows anymore? Liam F's mum has actually joined. Did they breach the top 10? Maybe I can't remember. I did notice though that there was a jumping up of. I'll bring it up on the screen so we can check it out. Yeah. Okay. All right. We can do that. So thank you, peeps, for joining in as well and joining in on the chat. It was some useful stuff. Very much appreciate it. Let's go and see who's in our top 10 at the moment. Here we go. So Petar, look at that. Bam. 1 million sats supported. Thank you very much, Petar. Ooh, nice little jump there. That's cool. Liam F. So I put all of Joey's stuff underneath his. So unless Liam F is posing as his own mum, which could be. But yeah, he jumped. Mr. Broadshoulders jumped up from around here somewhere. So he's gone up a couple of positions. Thank you, Mr. Broadshoulders. I think McIntosh also jumped a couple of places as well. Wherever he is.
Very cool to see. We have almost 200 supporters.
Yeah, I saw that as well. That was really cool.
Very cool.
Let's go all the way down. How many have we got?
194.
194. Woohoo! Yeah, and I'm pretty sure I've sorted out most of these because people have been using a lot of names. Mm-hmm. Although I'd probably need Joey to tell me because I think one or two of these might still be names that he wrote under. But. Yeah, once again, it's hard to. Oh well, that one for sure. Liam F is 29 and wets the bed. Okay, well I'll have to fix that one up at some point. I think there was a couple of others called like Essendon Bombers and Jaden Campbell. Is Jaden Campbell a rugby player or something like that? Maybe. Okay, yeah. Anyway, thank you everyone for joining us and for helping support and being in the chat. It's very, very cool. As usual, I will be in all of Joey's stuff. Thank you, Peter. Tight rip boys. What does that mean?
Tight rip, RIP?
Yeah. Is that as in like, I don't know. I don't even know what that means.
Rest in peace. I don't know.
Lol. Yeah, so I'll be in the Discord as usual if you feel like chatting, doing some text-based. Some highly unuseful,
highly unstructured,
highly Essendon Bombers and Jabel Campbell were both Liam F. mum. Yeah, I thought so. I had a feeling that was. All right, I'll try and capture that in the next one when I do it. And yeah, peace. Thanks, crew. It means good show. Tight rip. You ever heard that before? Tight rip.
No, I don't think I haven't.
Maybe it's a Canadian thing. Charlie rocked up to the handstand crew and she was wearing double denim, and Brennan was like, "Oh, the Canadian tuxedo." You heard that before?
I have not.
Yeah, double denim is a Canadian tuxedo. Damn. When you got the denim jacket and denim pants. Peter would know all about it.